Hello and welcome to this very first live edition of Matt Rhule Weekly presented by OwlSports. Update, Temple shocks an SEC school on the road to open up the 2014 season. And Zach, that just makes our job that much easier.
We're getting set to head live to Edberg Olson Hall. This is the Matt Rhule Weekly on OwlSports Update.
You know, this is a big win for the American Conference to come down here and win like this.
Hello and welcome to this very first live edition of the Matt Rhule Weekly on OwlSports Update. Along Chase Sr., I'm Zach Gelb.
We'll be going live to Matt Rhule's press conference in just a minute, but for now, let's get you caught up on Thursday's action in the season opener in Nashville. Recurring lightning in the area pushed kickoff back to just before 11 p.m. Eastern time, but as soon as the weather cleared up, Temple turn up. We picked things up early in the first quarter. Pattison Robinette looks to find Davis Tudchak over the middle, but safety Alex Wells breaks up the pass. Following a Vanderbilt fumble, the Owls are faced with a 4th and 5 from the Vanderbilt 35. P.J. Walker hits Brandon Shippen, and the Owls draw first blood, Zach.
Gutsy play call on 4th down, but the correct one. Shippen does a slant in, and Temple's on the board.
The touchdown was Shippen's first career reception, good for 35 yards. Then it's Walker hitting Fitzpatrick here on a bubble screen, and the Owls regain the lead. What was key there, Zach?
Quick play out of the timeout, Shippen on the big block. Fitzpatrick uses that speed, and Temple scores.
Here's the turning point of the game right here. Steven Rivers now in at quarterback. He's got nowhere to throw and is crushed by Avery Ellis and Hassan Reddick. Pill comes loose. Avery Robinson scoops it up. He takes it to the house for a 55-yard touchdown. Check out the big boy run.
It's a good pass rush there, something Temple didn't have a year ago. A good pass rush helps the secondary.
Temple got it done on offense, defense, and special teams, including this fumble recovery by Jahad Thomas. That set up an Austin Jones 19-yard field goal. Temple would go on to force a total of 7 turnovers and a 37-7 drubbing over the Commodores. It's the first time Temple has defeated an SEC team since way back in 1938. Now, Zach, Temple put away the demons from a year ago, the demons that resurfaced time and time again. They were able to finish. How much does this do for this young team's confidence that they're able to finish on the road against an SEC school?
It's a big confidence booster. Most people, if you would have said Temple would have won this game by 30 points going into the game, would have called you crazy. But Temple went out there. They had an excellent effort on all 3 sides of the ball, and the defense was the big turning point for me. There was a pass rush. It was constantly improving throughout the game, and they were able to turn over the football, something they couldn't do a year ago.
Now, this marks the second year in a row that Temple opened up on the road in a season opener against a team that ended the previous season again in the top 25, and this really does a lot for this program. It gets some national notice, and now people are starting to realize that this Temple program is on the rise.
And you have some big national players on both sides of the ball. You want to look at the quarterback, P.J. Walker, coming from Elizabeth High School, had some time last year, had a really strong connection late into the season with this team, and also on the other side of the ball, you have Tyler Medikevich, who is a tackling machine, as we know.
All but 10 points came off turnovers on Thursday night. An unbelievable performance, and Matt Rhule is actually set to hit the podium at Edberg Olson Hall at the team's practice facility on 10th and Diamond. He's going to address the media after his team's 37-7 win. What do you expect to hear from Coach?
I expect to hear a happy head football coach, and I'm sure he's going to be talking a lot about the defense and also the kicking game as well, as they did have some field goals the other day.
Are you a bit surprised with Temple's all-around performance? I mean, they dominated in every single phase of the game on Thursday.
I wouldn't call it surprise, but it was a good encouraging sign for a future where Matt Rhule's trying to really build this program.
All right, well, here's Matt Rhule at Edberg Olson Hall addressing the media after Temple's 37-7 victory over Vanderbilt.
A tough day, but a good day. So before I move on, there's just a couple of statements I wanted to make sure I said that were kind of on my heart at the end of that game. But there were two really great men, really good people that were important to me and important to Temple football and people that I missed. You know, obviously that being the first win of the season, 2 people that I know would have rejoiced in that. And the first was George Moore, who was our general counsel here at Temple, who was a tremendous man, a tremendous supporter. This Saturday won't be the same without George, knowing that he won't be there yelling at me as he tailgates as we do our flying. And the second was Lewis Katz, a man who, as I've said before, was a friend of mine, a guy that saw the good when everyone else saw the bad, including myself. When you were down, all he saw was the positives. That's probably why he was so successful. So I know those guys would have loved to have been there, and I wanted to make sure I said that we missed both George and Lewis. I want to also make sure I thanked all the people that came. I thought we had a great crowd. The guys were at the game. I mean, to go down to Nashville and play at that time of night, to look up and see the president of our university, to see the chairman and the trustees all there supporting us, to see parents, to see just fans. I thought it was awesome. I thought it gave our kids a lot of energy and juice, and that was a real big moment for us in that game. And I was also proud of the subs who went in for us. We had some injuries, some costly injuries early, and the guys stepped in. Guys were ready to play, and so to play that many kids and have them play at a high level, I thought was good for our program moving forward, and we'll have a lot of competition as we move forward. With that, we're kind of ready to close the book and move on. We've been working on Navy day and night. Our kids sat right in here and they watched them play Ohio State, and they saw that this is a tremendous team. There's no greater challenge right now than for us than to play a team like Navy, a team that knows how to win. It's won a tremendous amount of games, a team that we've had a great history with. We were beating them. I forget what the score was. Some of you guys probably remember one year, and they came back and beat us at the very end of the game in overtime, and came back the next year. We were able to find a way to finally emerge victorious. But a team that we have a great history with, a team that's going to be in the league for a long time. So we have got to learn how to play them, and we're excited. They have a great quarterback in Keenan Reynolds, a guy who's college football is all about. He's a Heisman candidate. He's a tremendous player. They have a veteran offensive line, big, physical, strong guys that know how to run their offense really well. They have a lot of speed. They're as skilled as any team will face. They have an aggressive coach. He'll fake punts, he'll fake field goals, he'll do everything. So besides just the triple option, besides a really good defense, they'll also be really aggressive on special teams. So our kids know that this is a team we're playing that's committed to precision and execution, and so we're working really hard to try to get caught up over these next couple of days. So with that, I'll see if you guys have any questions.
You get your team not to have a little bit of a letdown coming off of a big win like that?
Yeah, that's always going to be an issue. You know what I mean? When it was a big win, and everybody, people are telling them kind of, hey, you did a nice job. I think the biggest thing is Navy. I mean, we practiced them Saturday. We watched that game. I think they left here Saturday after that practice, and then seeing them play live on TV, and they know that this is a really, really good team. Might be the best team we've faced all year. So they know that, whether we're up for it, down for whatever, I mean, you have got to execute and play at a really high level against these guys. It's got to be really tough, so I think that's the part that'll get us over that. Is it's not, we're not going to play somebody that, hey, we should beat these guys. I mean, we got to fight tooth and nail just to hang in against Navy.
Even though you kind of said that Navy runs a triple option at a really high level, maybe a little bit better than Army does, but does it help that you have some guys on the roster that have kind of gotten used to playing one style of defense one week and then kind of scaling back and saying, I can't just run at people, I have to read my keys a little bit more?
Yeah, I think there's some familiarity, seeing the offense, last year at Army and the year before at Army. So I think our guys are at least comfortable knowing, okay, this is what we have to do, and this is why we have to do it. That being said, this is being done at a really, really high level. I mean, Keenan Reynolds, he'll come out in four wides and he'll throw the ball. He'll line up in the shotgun and run shotgun options. He'll throw the ball. He is a legitimate passing threat in addition to being a runner. So they present other problems that we haven't seen before, but at least we're seeing it every year so that we spend time on it. So it's not like get to Monday and we say to the guys, hey guys, this is how we play the option.
Right, you guys have built this team with defense. It's a case where they're going to run it through a lot. How much of a chance is it for that front four, to be stopped in this situation? When we bringing somebody else up the line?
No, we'll play with the guys we have, and we'll play a lot of guys. We played 8 guys last week on the defensive line. We'll play 8 again this week. We're expecting it to be hot, and we want to have guys ready to play. We have a lot of D linemen that we feel like can go in the game. So guys have to. I don't like to use the word discipline necessarily, but they have to execute what we're asking them to execute. They have to do the job that we put in front of them. I mean, the way you win football games, like I keep telling them, you don't win football games by a chant. You don't win football games by what helmet you wear, jersey, or just because you got up for a game. You win it by executing and doing what you're trained to do. So this week we have to execute some different things, and if they want to win, they better do it and do it at a really high level. Because what Navy does, they do every single day that they practice all year long, 365 days of the year. We're going to do it for 5. So you better put your heart and soul into it. So
because of that
throw in any little preseason things, preparing, knowing Navy was coming so early?
Yeah, we did a period of Navy every day during our preseason. We really challenge it this week. So we do them every single day in camp. So that at least by the time we get to here, our kids have heard the calls. The issue is, for us, some of the kids that, got all those reps are banged up right now. So we're, pulling another kid up saying, hey, now you need to learn how to do this. But you spend 10, 15 minutes every day preparing for triple option.
We apologize for those technical difficulties. That was Matt Rhule, Edberg Olson Hall, addressing the media after Temple's 37-7 win over Vanderbilt in Nashville. It was a wonderful way to open up the season. It's time to take a quick break here on the Matt Rhule Weekly on OwlSports Update, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, we'll continue to break down Temple's big victory on opening night. Welcome back to the Matt Rhule Weekly, produced by OwlSports Update alongside Zach Gelb. I'm Chase Sr. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We do not have the feed for Matt Rhule right now at the team's practice facility at the Owl's Nest at Edberg Olson Hall. We've got Matt Rhule now. We're going to go back to Edberg Olson Hall, and Matt Rhule is meeting with the media, so we'll go there right now.
My job, I got to run over and help you do your job, and that's how we win, right? We play as a team, so we'll have to do those three things to have a chance. Play our assignments, help each other, and stay on our feet.
Looked at him on tape after when you went back and looked at how they played.
Well, I thought they did a great job protecting PJ. I mean, he not only did not get sacked, he never got hit. So that was really well done. I didn't think we ran the ball the way I wanted to early. But we've also tried to explain to our guys, in the world that we're in, the tempo that we're in, we want to be able to run the ball late in the third and fourth quarter. We're going to try to run it early. Don't get me wrong. No, we want to run it at a high level, but we're going to wear people out, hopefully to the point where when we get in the third and fourth quarter, the runs start to pop. And I thought you saw that on Thursday. At the end of the game, when Jahad was in there, he popped a couple. Jamie popped a couple. So we just had to be a little bit more physical up front. And this week, nobody plays harder than this front that we're going to see. Sarah's a big guy in the middle at 303 pounds. So we have a big, strong nose, and we have these, 250-pound defensive ends that play four eyes that will just get after you. So we're going to have to be really tenacious to find a way to run the football, because if we can't run it, then we put our defense right back out there.
Matt, how healthy are Jalen and John?
They didn't practice today, so it's a Tuesday practice, and they didn't practice today. John might have tried to take a couple things, right? But John's tough. He went in there and snapped on that bad ankle, and after the one kind of went high, we got him out and put Corey in, and he still wanted to play. John Christopher is as tough as they come. So, but I don't know if they'll be able to go Saturday or not. Right now, they wouldn't go. We'll see if they can get healthy by the end of the week.
What about their injuries?
JC had a ankle sprain, and then Jalen on that great catch down across on the goal line hurt his shoulder. So I don't know if it's a sprain or a strain or what degree it is, but it's a sprain of one of his joints in his shoulder. Yeah, but and I was pleased. We had two different guys make field goal kicks. And like I said to you guys last week, we were gonna go out there like we could kick, right? And so for us on 4th and 1 from the 1 to kick it, that's it was 21-7 at the time. That shows that we had confidence in them. Last year we would run the ball in, but those guys have worked hard, and so I thought they did a nice job. I thought Coop did a nice job with the kickoffs, and we had a touchback in the game. We pinned them down deep, knocked the ball out on special teams. So I thought Coop did a great job with his kickoffs. Mays and Austin did a good job on field goals. Missed the one, which we shouldn't have, but for the most part we were solid. And the punting, other than the high snap, I thought Alex Starzing for his first game in college football, to have a 43-yarder was his first punt. I think later on he had a 58-yarder. I think he's going to emerge and be a weapon for us. Shipman played really well. Played on special teams at a high level. Caught that ball on 4th and 7, was a great catch. Had the block that sprung Jalen on the long touchdown. Had another big catch. I can't remember what the play was. It was another 3rd or 4th down. So those guys, our wideouts played okay, but Brandon, I thought, played really, really pretty impressively. It was a good move for him going to offense. I think his demeanor fits over there well, and PJ's confidence in him.
It's a game where ideally you want to stay home.
No, we try to sit there and squeeze blocks and keep them off the linebackers and allow the linebackers to, go scrape and make plays. If they start getting up the field, then they read that guy and they're out around them. So we change our whole technique up front with our defensive line. Instead of penetrating, now they have to read and squeeze, and that's generally what most guys do against it. It's kind of like universal when you see people play, and because if not, they'll read that guy and then they're out. So we're trying to protect guys.
Amount of snaps behind Kenny team here.
Yeah, Jihad's gonna have a heck of a future at tailback. I mean, he's done some really nice things in practice and in the scrimmages, and I thought he got out there and he showed a change of pace, showed misdirection. His best play was probably the option that we shouldn't have pitched to him. We missed the block, and he caught it and then got knocked out, right? And that, a lot of guys would have gotten out of the way, and that would have been a fumble. But Jihad's played on special teams for us on Thursday, and he's going to have a real key role as we move forward. He's going to be a really good player.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
That was Coach Matt Rhule live from Edberg, Olsen, Hall, and Chase. There was a lot talked about in that press conference, but one thing that I really noticed was the play of the defense in Vanderbilt on Thursday, especially from the outside. Phil Snow and his unit definitely have to be happy with their performance.
Oh, he has to be thrilled. I mean, when Phil Snow was anointed defensive coordinator by Matt Rhule, he told the players, he told the media, he told everybody, but that this was going to be a system that might take a year and a half to learn. And you saw on Thursday night, this unit had a grasp on what they were doing. They moved to a 4-3 defense. The defensive line was getting after the quarterback. The defensive ends were bussing around the edge. The defensive tackles were pushing back an offensive line that returned 4 starters on Vanderbilt. Now put that in perspective. You're talking about an SEC school, Vanderbilt, that has won 9 games each of the last 2 seasons. They made 3 straight bowl games, and Temple's defensive line just bullied them all night long. Phil Snow has to be absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure they looked over the tape, and they'll continue to look over the tape. There's some playmakers on that defensive line, and the good thing for Temple and Temple fans is that all these guys are returning for many years to come.
One big play that stood out was the Avery Robinson fumble return, and that was the big turning point of the game. And you saw Avery Williams as well as Hassan Reddick rush from the edges, and they put a big hit on the quarterback, which eventually popped out to the fumble. And that's something that you like to see, a team playing whistle to whistle on defense, and that's what you did see on Thursday under the bright lights, SEC football up against Vanderbilt. But another player that did stand out to me was Praise Martin Aguique, and he's gone through a lot. He's back with the program, and Matt Rhule did talk about after the game how now he's able to contribute and be known as Praise the football player instead of the stuff that happened off the field.
And it's a great story. This is a guy who was kicked out of Temple University. He was kicked off the football team because he was accused of rape. He comes back, enrolls in Temple. We talked to him on our radio show. He's a very humble guy, and now he's on the football team, number 1 on the depth chart at defensive end, and he's making plays. So a wonderful story. And what really stood out to me is the depth all around on this team. You had each of the top 3 safeties go down, and every guy was coming up. In football, it's the next man up. That's the mindset that you have to have, and that's what Temple did at the safety position. But cornerbacks, you had Sean Chandler and Anthony Davis, 2 guys who come back from the 2014 recruiting class. They were making plays. Anthony Roby and Tavon Young were also doing a great job, so the depth really stood out to me. But again, let's look at this defense from last year. They're one of the worst units in college football in 2013. They ranked 108th among Division I subdivision teams in total yards allowed. They gave up over 470 yards per game in 2013. Nearly 300 of those yards were passing. On Thursday, they only gave up 278 yards.
And also, they've only had 3 interceptions all of last season, and the other night they were able to get 3 interceptions in one game. 2 of them was Tavon Young, who got number 1, which goes to the toughest player of the week, and also Saquon Jefferson, who makes his Temple debut, also gets a pick in that effort. And I have to go back to the pass rush. Phil Snow and Matt Rhule talked about it all of last year. A good pass rush helps out a secondary. Now, they have more talented players this year than they did last year, but that pass rush, led by Matt Ioannidis, led by Avery Williams, really was a big success success on Thursday.
Yeah, and you can give up all the yards that you want. But if you don't give up points and you force turnovers, then you can put the yardage allowed, you can put that to the side, because all that matters at the end of the day is obviously the scoreboard, and Temple did a good job of limiting Vanderbilt's chances. Now, Last year, Temple forced 13 turnovers and racked up only 15 sacks. They nearly doubled both of those categories. Moving on to the offensive side of the ball, the second-year quarterback in P.J. Walker, he had a pretty good game. He was off on some throws, and he'd be the first to tell you that. He finished 23 of 34, good for 68%. He accounted for 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, that one to Brandon Shippen that we saw in the intro and the highlight, and also that bubble screen to Jalen Fitzpatrick, and he also had a rushing touchdown on a QB keeper. What did you think of the second-year quarterback's performance?
One thing I was hesitant going out before the year with P.J. Walker was who is going to be his safety blanket. Now, we don't know that because Robbie Anderson is no longer here, but now they're still looking for a safety blanket. And you saw Brandon Shippen step up. You saw Jalen Fitzpatrick before he got injured. He was stepping up. Quick little screen pass out of the timeout. Shippen had a great block on that play. And also Nate Hairston were able to reel in a few catches as well. So we still need to see who's going to be that go-to threat for P.J. Walker on the offensive side of the ball. But in addition, with a good run game with a lot of depth at running back, you saw 4 running backs get onto the field. This Temple offense is diverse, and that's what Matt Rhule wanted to do coming in here to Temple University. He said he learned a lot from the New York Football Giants with Tom Coughlin, and they have a pro spread offense. And now when you get to the link on Saturday, you don't know what they're going to be doing. They could be passing. They could be doing a trick play. They could be running the ball in one play. There is diversity on this offense, and it's a beautiful sight to see.
P.J. Walker started the last 7 games of the 2013 season. In the last 6, Temple held a lead or were tied through 85% of those games, and they averaged nearly 400 yards per game. Unfortunately, that didn't result in wins, but that's what P.J. Walker has to work on in year 2. Let's take a look at P.J. Walker's numbers compared to the 3 Vanderbilt quarterbacks that head coach Derek Mason, the head coach of the Commodores, who came over from Stanford, trotted out there on Thursday night. As we mentioned just a minute ago, P.J. Walker finished 23 of 34, 207 total yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 21 rushing yards. On the other side of the spectrum, Vanderbilt, their quarterbacks, 3 of them to be exact, finished 16 of 34, 224 yards, no touchdowns, but what really sticks out there is 3 interceptions and negative 23 rushing yards. P.J. Walker made all the right decisions, and he was smart under center.
It goes back to, and you look at those numbers, the minus 23 rushing yards and the 3 interceptions, this defense is finally starting to have an identity. Last year was the offense's turn. They found an identity with being in that pro spread, diverse spread kind of offense, and now the defense is starting to find the identity. But I look at P.J., he knows how to manage a game, and that final drive, when you're under 4 minutes right before the first half, he took over the game and he led to a Temple score.
Now, an interesting side note, Matt Rhule has a pretty good relationship with the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Chip Kelly. And we saw at times on Thursday night, Temple effectively, without turning the rock over, they were running a fast-paced, no-huddle offense. And you could really see that the Vanderbilt defense was lethargic, they looked slow, and they looked tired. Something that we might see more of is Temple moving at a fast pace like that.
And that also goes back to the depth, because we look at this depth chart and you see a lot of players that are able to make plays on the Division I level, and you have to give credit to his recruiting staff. Matt Rhule, Marcus Satterfield as well. Sat had a really good play-calling game when you look at some of the stuff that he did, especially that quick screen pass to Jalen Fitzpatrick right out of the timeout. That caught the Vanderbilt defense off guard. But hey, if you could go out there, especially with your big center and Kyle Friend, and continue to run the ball up the middle and throw in some passing plays, you're going to have a lot of tired defenses.
What we saw was definitely a diverse offense. Real quick, let's touch on the wide receiver core. Robbie Anderson, he's not with the team. He got over 900 yards a year ago, 9 touchdowns, and he didn't even play until I think the 3rd or 4th game. But again, we touch on the depth, which was apparent on Thursday night. Brandon Shippen led the way, 2 catches, 60 yards and a touchdown. Nate Hairston, 7 catches, 48 yards. Jalen Fitzpatrick, the senior, 5 catches, 46 yards and a touchdown. And Khalif Urban, kind of a Swiss Army knife type of player, 5 catches for 39 yards. P.J. Walker has a lot of weapons to throw to, and John Christopher didn't even line up at wideout because of that injury.
It's a good point with Christopher, and we're going to hopefully see him back for this Navy game. But you mentioned Khalif Urban. This is a player that could be a player that provides a lot on the offensive side of the ball, because he could be returning punts, he could be returning kicks, and then he could be in the slot at wide receiver, or even sometimes some trick plays with him coming out of the backfield. You mentioned the wide receivers, though. Brandon Shippen, he really stood out to me. And not only was he blocking effectively, but he also found a way to get to the back of the end zone in a quick slant.
And arguably the most important position on the field other than the quarterback position, is the offensive line. Now, Kyle Friend, the center, he entered the game having started 21 straight games. He made his 22nd consecutive start against Vanderbilt in the season opener. All the offensive linemen on the roster, besides Kyle Friend, I'm talking the starters and the backups, they had played in just 5 total games in their college careers. You have to be impressed with what the boys did up front.
Friend's the anchor of this team. He's one of the leaders on the offensive side of the ball. Eric Lofton, Deion Dawkins. Deion Dawkins has the potential to maybe play on the next level as well. The offensive line, they meshed well, and, hey, they were able to stay out there for a long time in this game, and they also to get some breaks as well when they were getting a little bit tired, and that was because of the depth and also the big blowout score. 4
running backs got carries against Vanderbilt, all of which showed some flashes and were pretty good. And this came without Zaire Williams, the sophomore running back who ran for over 500 yards last year, the third most all-time behind Paul Palmer and Bernard Pierce, both of which had NFL careers. But again, deep at the running back position, and they have a thunder-lightning combo with Kenny Harper and Jamie Gilmore.
And also you have Jihad Thomas as well, who he has a lot of potential. But you mentioned Jamie Gilmore. He really came on as of late at the end of the season. That Memphis game was something that really stood out. But Kenny is still the leader of this running back unit. He's going to be the guy where if it's 4th and short or 3rd and short, he's going to be getting the carries with his big physical frame. But I like this running back by committee thing. It's something that you do see in the NFL at times, and it was working out the other night, and it will definitely be working out against a disciplined Navy team coming up on Saturday.
All right, it's time to take a break on the Matt Rhule Weekly, produced by OwlSports Update. When we return, we'll continue to assess Temple's play against Vanderbilt.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back. The Matt Rhule Weekly, produced by OwlSports Update. We are live in the TUTV Cal and Lucille Rudman Studios at Annenberg Hall at Temple University. And Chase, you want to take a look at something that was encouraging for Temple, and that was the kicking game, something where they really struggled a year ago. Austin Jones was able to make 3 kicks.
Can you believe this, that last year, Temple made a total of 3 field goals all year? 3 field goals in 12 games. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. That cannot happen at the college level. It can't happen at the high school level, and obviously it doesn't happen on the NFL level. But you had 3 guys who came in and did a pretty good job. I mean, Austin Jones, he knocked down 2 or 3 field goals. Jim Cooper Jr. handled all of the kickoff duties, and he had 1 touchback, as Matt Rhule said in his press conference. And Tyler Mays was also good from 25 yards. Now, it's an interesting approach because usually coaches head into the season knowing firmly who they're going to use in the kicking game. But Matt Rhule has 3 guys now that he's pretty confident in that can knock down field goals. Now, what we won't see in a couple of games to come is these long field goals. I mean, that's why Temple went for it on 4th down 2 times during that game. Both ended up paying big dividends. The touchdown pass to Brandon Shippen, and then another 4th down conversion was good to Nate Hairston. But you're not going to get the long field goals like we saw from Brandon McManus, who's now with the Denver Broncos. But at least we know now that Temple's going to knock down more than 3 field goals this year. They already matched that total from a year ago, and you have confidence in your kickers, and the kickers have confidence as well.
And also from extra points. Hey, an extra point should be a gimme. Last year it wasn't. Temple walk away when they would score, and it would be 6-0. And this year they were able to go out there in this first game, and they were able to knock down their extra points as well. I look at Austin Jones. He was kind of a wild card going into camp, and he really came on out of the scene and outkicked Jim Cooper Jr. And you mentioned Jim Cooper Jr. He did a good job on the kickoffs, but I look at Austin Jones. I would like to see what he could do maybe from a 35-yard field goal. I do agree with you. There's not a lot of confidence there still with him from long range, from anything over 30 yards. And I think that's with all 3 of the kickers. And that's something that you're going to look over for the rest of the season. If they are in a tight situation, they have to kick a 35-yard field goal. And right now I would say that they're going to continue to go for it if it's 4th and short, just something like you saw the other night when Brandon Shippen eventually led to the slant touchdown.
Yeah, and why kick a field goal if the offense is able to convert on 4th and longs and 4th and shorts? Real quick, you saw each of the kickers' performances on Thursday night. To be exact, Austin Jones was good from 19 and 28. He missed from 22. Tyler Mays was good from 25 yards. Jim Cooper Jr. did a decent job on the kickoffs. But is there a guy right now that you think has the clear-cut advantage in the kicking game?
I still think it's going to be kicking by committee, but right now I would still go with Austin Jones. I think that's the guy that they're going to continue to go out, whichever one has the hotter leg, and Austin Jones did prove that. And you saw Matt Rhule, he's starting to adjust a little bit. Last year he ran Jim Cooper Jr. out there, tough kick up against Notre Dame, and he missed it. He didn't want to put Austin Jones in a tough spot, and they waited a little bit to get him into the game. So I'm going to go with Austin Jones right now, but you also can't forget about the punting game and Alex Starzyk, because he did a sensational job in this game. Now, yes, there was a high snap by John Christopher, which led to the only touchdown of the game for Vanderbilt, but Starzyk, he's another wild card kind of player in the special teams game, and I look at Alex Starzyk, and it's every third kick, it's wow, this kid has a big leg. He has to work on the consistency, though, a little bit.
Yeah, the consistency is something that he definitely does have to work on, and when we saw Alex Starzyk perform in training camp, it was the consistency. We would see Alex Starzyk boot a 50-yarder, but then on the next kick, he might shank a 30-yarder out of bounds. In total, 7 punts for 291 yards, and the special teams did a good job of getting downfield when Starzyk was able to boot it for long distances.
That's also something, and that's a great point. You saw the Temple players playing whistle to whistle, and on the special teams where Jahad Thomas did recover that fumble on the punt, you saw them gunning right out of the gate, and even on the sidelines, you saw that they were all into it. They were chanting, getting really into this game. You saw some emotion. You saw some intensity, something that you didn't see a year ago. This Temple team is really starting to find their own identity, in my opinion.
And when Matt Rhule took this job, he talked about wanting to be in Philadelphia. And Temple didn't necessarily have a brand in place last year, but you mentioned it. I mean, they're a physical team. They'll hit you in the mouth. They don't back down from anybody. They go up against an SEC school and they dominate them for the duration of the ball game, and the defense especially. Very physical, and you're starting to see kind of a Philadelphia identity. Philadelphia is a blue-collar town. The people are tough. They're rugged. They work hard, and you're seeing that identity come out with this defense right now.
And it's also nice because, as you said, Matt Rhule did talk about how he wants the Temple logo to shine bright, and when he goes to Arizona to visit Bruce Arians, they're always going around with the Temple T, or anywhere across the country when they're recruiting in Jersey, in Philadelphia, or even when they have to go down south now because of the American Athletic Conference and how wide it is geographically. Now they're starting to get a little national recognition. On the ESPN pregame show before the game, no one picked Temple. Not many people were picking Temple. And now people are starting to raise their eyebrows a little bit on the name Matt Rhule and also Temple football.
Going back to the offense, I think Satterfield and Rhule did a really good job of giving P.J. Walker easy plays to make. We didn't see much of a vertical passing game, but instead we saw a lot of button hooks. We saw a lot of slants, post routes, and bubble screens. They did a good job of making it easy for P.J. Walker to make the throws. Now, he wasn't all that sharp, but moving forward, when P.J. Walker starts to get his feet wet in his second year as quarterback, we can expect to see a vertical passing game.
And also, I think a big reason was they were trying to tire out Vanderbilt. Remember, these players were sitting in the locker room for 90 minutes, and when we looked by the Temple locker room, you heard a lot of music. You heard a lot of good, positive energy. So I believe that the reason why you didn't see them go too much downfield was they wanted to get a lot of short, quick stuff, 5-10 yards, to really tire down that Vanderbilt defense.
Yeah, and the receivers did a really good job of making plays after the catch. There's that term out there, yak, yards after the catch, and Temple was certainly able to do that because they do have some speedsters. They don't necessarily have that big guy who can tower up, jump over people, and make a grab, but they have quick, speedy wide receivers, and they design the play calls to the players' benefits and their skill set.
And also, when you get into the red zone, one player that I do believe that you'll start seeing getting some more burn on the outside is Roman Deloche. He's a big physical frame. They put him out wide to the left on numerous occasions. They even had almost a touchdown his way, but he couldn't keep his feet in bounds. Start looking out for Roman Deloche to start getting some more looks when we get inside the 20.
Yeah, he did have a really good camp, and he had a pretty good spring camp too when he was able to stay on the field. I think he dealt with a little bit of a nagging knee injury. In total, 8 receivers caught balls for Temple. Can we expect to see that type of production moving forward?
I do believe that you can, and we've seen that now with some of the most elite offenses in the NFL. You look at the Broncos, the Patriots, they always have speedy guys in the slot, and you get a return of hopefully this week of John Christopher. So that's one player that you may get another reception coming up this week. And hey, a lot of this team is by committee, and the receiving group is another receiving by committee kind of group, and that's what you're starting to see out of this football team. A lot of physical players with a lot of depth.
I know we talked a little bit about it on our radio broadcast down in Nashville when we were calling the game, but what type of things can P.J. Walker improve on? Because his leadership qualities is definitely improving on that. Matt Rhule mentioned it all throughout spring camp and training camp that he is becoming more of a leader. He went to the Manning Passing Academy and he was tutored by the family tree of quarterbacks, if you will, in Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and Archie Manning. But what type of characteristics on and off the field can P.J. Walker improve on in year 2?
On the field, I think it's going to be a little bit generic, but it's going to be accuracy. You saw sometimes early on in the game, and it could have been a little bit of jitter, some nerves, SEC football under the lights, first game of the year. But there were some times when you had receivers running button hooks or doing slants, and PJ was a little bit behind him. But I think that will improve as time goes along, because as we mentioned last year, Robbie Anderson was his safety blanket. Now he's still trying to find who his safety blanket is. So we are going to see that improve throughout the course of the season. But I would say accuracy right now, but there's a lot of potential here. He's a leader. He wants it, and that's what you want out of a quarterback.
Real quick before we head to a break, all but 10 of Temple's points came off turnovers, as we mentioned on earlier in the show. We didn't see those long, sustainable drives. Is that a little bit of a concern to you?
It isn't to me because that was the way that game was moving. Against Navy, a team that when their offense gets on the field, they want to run the ball a lot and they go on long possessions. So you're going to want to see the Temple on the other side of the field. They're going to want to go out there and go on longer possessions up against Navy. But through game 1, hey, you win 37-7. There's nothing concerning to me coming out of that ball game, especially the atmosphere that they were in.
And a win is a win. You can't complain about that. Expectations are higher for this team compared to what it's been in years past, and the confidence is running high with the Temple Owls right now. It's time for our last break. When we come back, we'll take one last look ahead to the Navy game, and we'll talk a little bit about Matt Rhule's comments at his weekly press conference.
Welcome back. The Matt Rhule Weekly is produced by OwlSports Update. And Chase, we do have Navy coming up this Saturday, 1 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Field for the home opener. And there were some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, a lot in the secondary, especially with Alex Wells, who's now going to miss up to 6 weeks. Now, you do have a Navy team that runs a lot out of the triple option with their quarterback, Keenan Reynolds, only had 4 passing attempts, but they did put up 370 rushing yards. So the secondary may not hurt them coming up this Saturday, but for the future, it could be something that you can look at.
Yeah, it's definitely a good time, if there is a time for your secondary to get banged up, to go up against a Navy team. I mean, you mentioned it, 390 yards of total offense. Guess how many of those are passing? 20. So they're not a great passing team, but they do run the ball very effectively. And they went up against Ohio State, who coming into the season, I know they don't have Braxton Miller. Ohio State was expected and is expected to make a run at the national championship, but they're a run-heavy school. They run that triple option, and it's very hard to defend. Luckily for Temple, they have some tape from last year against Army. Army also runs some of that triple option offense, but Navy's a tough team. They won 9 games last year. They took a 7-6 lead into halftime. They played very tough, and before Ohio State scored 28 second-half points, Navy was showing a tough brand of football, and they have no fear going up against one of the better teams in the nation.
If I'm Phil Snow, I'm loading the box this week. I'm putting a lot of linebackers out there, a lot of defensive linemen playing press coverage, and you're pushing up your safeties. And I know last year teams wouldn't say, hey, we would say go throw the ball up against Temple. If I'm Phil Snow, I want when I'm going up against Navy, I want to say, hey, go out there and throw the football, press the box a lot, and not allow those rushing yards downfield. Yeah, 11 different players for Navy got carries on Saturday against the Buckeyes in Baltimore. They played at the Baltimore Ravens Stadium. So Temple has to look at the film and prepare for a lot of different styles of runners because they do run the ball very effectively and they run the ball a lot. Ryan Williams-Jenkins ran for 118 yards, and Keenan Reynolds carried the ball 23 times for 42 yards. Not too many times you see a quarterback running the ball 23 times. Let's also remember the Navy background. They're going to be a tough, disciplined football team. You're not going to see 7 turnovers this time around. So if Temple is able to get a turnover, they have to capitalize on that and punch it in for 6. This cannot be a letdown game. Temple Owls, they need to win this game and make it 2-0 and continue this high momentum that they have coming off the Vanderbilt game. It's going to be a tough, physical football game. It will go down to the wire. I'll be shocked if the winning team wins by more than 3 points, but that's what you're going to see out of these two teams on Saturday. Yeah, and Vegas released the line yesterday. Navy is actually 3.5-point favorites, so a lot of people are expecting Navy to win this game. Temple doesn't really get too much respect often, and that's going to be the case again on Saturday. A guy we might see on Saturday is Shaheed Lovett. He was a big part of the 2014 recruiting class. He was ranked the number 3 safety at the JUCO level. Matt Rhule and Phil
Phil Snow have moved him up in the box. He's been playing a lot of linebacker, came in as a safety, but we might see him with the lack of depth at safety on Saturday.
And you also see some more Will Hayes and Jihad Pretlow in addition to that, because both of those players, Matt Rhule did say the other day that he would start them if it came down to it right now with the injuries.
And real quick with injuries, Alex Wells is out for at least 6 weeks. Safeties Nate L. Smith and Boye Aromare are also hurt. They may not play on Saturday. And John Christopher, who long snapped on Thursday, his status is still unknown.
That's going to do it for us today on the Matt Rhule Weekly, produced by Owl Sports Update. Alongside Chase Sr., I'm Zach Gill.
How did it feel making your on-camera debut, Zach?
It felt great. Good to be in here and a part of this broadcast each and every Tuesday.
Our regularly scheduled broadcast will be back on Thursday as Walt Ruff and Andrew McDevitt will make their debuts on the Owl Sports Update desk.
And of course, check back next Tuesday at the same time, same location as we recap the Navy game and highlight some key things Temple needs to head on working into their bye week. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
See you next time.